just to go through how we'll approach the presentation. So Mark and Klaus are going to deliver the presentation, and we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. So most of you are probably familiar with Zoom by now, but if not, there's a Q&A button, which you can pop in a question, and we'll ask that during the Q&A at the end. And if you'd like to speak, feel free to raise your hand, and then I'll unmute you. You'll get a little prompt to unmute yourself, and then you can probably speak if the tech goes correctly. So I guess we'll hand over to Klaus. We're looking for probably about 20 minutes on the presentation, guys, and then we can do something similar on the Q&A, because I know you've got to get to another meeting at 12. So without further ado, I'll pass over to you, to Klaus. Would you like to take it away?
Thank you, Sasha. Thanks for everybody to attending the webinar. We're presenting today Rome Resources, which has a project, tin and copper and zinc in the DRC. It's located close to Alphamin Resources, around 8 clicks to the north. And we are very excited with that project. Very early discoveries on surface and then extending also at depths. We started a drilling program last year and then continued during the middle of the year again with a company on the AIM market, which we vended into Pathfinder Resources. And that has been very successful. And to date, we have a drilling program going with 4 drill rigs on site. And that's progressing very nicely into the new year. And then hopefully with a resource coming out also in the first quarter of next year. I'll pass you over to Mark on the PowerPoint presentation, and then we will continue during the course, to give you a bit more update about us and our track record, etc.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for your time. So in summary, we have identified 2 high-grade tin in soil anomalies. You can see them in this diagram. You have the Mont Agoma, the Mont Agoma to the east, the Mont Agoma anomaly, which is a very high-grade tin anomaly. Within that, you had over 500 meters of strike running at more than 500 ppm tin, and maximums up to 0.2% tin in the soil. So a highly significant drill target. No artisanal working. It's a wholly owned discovery. And then we have the Kalayi anomaly to the west, where there were a few artisanal workings, and the soil anomaly continued for 2 kilometers. And so basically during the initial campaign, we drilled 4 holes under Kalayi, and we drilled another 15 holes under Mont Agoma. Since the RTO was completed in end of July, we have commenced with a new drill campaign, and we've currently drilled another 12 holes at Kalayi, and we've completed 2 at Mont Agoma, and we have another 3 in progress. So effectively, the Kalayi anomaly, the Kalayi target is close to completion, and the initial drilling program is close to completion, and we will hope to have our initial sort of resource estimate out early in the new year. And with 3 rigs focused on Mont Agoma, we're fast tracking it to try and catch up, and we should have sufficient results in the early in the new year to get a resource target out there as well. The difference between the 2 anomalies is that Kalayi is tin only, and Mont Agoma is copper, tin, zinc, and silver, and a bit of gold. So one highly polymetallic anomaly to the east, and a tin only anomaly to the west. So to show you the early drilling at Mont Agoma, we covered 300 meters of strike. And we found an extremely broad sulfide zone of 200 meters across the structure. Some significant results in the early drilling. We had up to sort of 11 meters at 0.5% of tin, but important in that you had 2 meters at over 1%. But I think probably the most spectacular result we got during that early campaign was the copper, and that was 41 meters at 3.5%. And inside that, you had 13 meters at 7.8. This is not a standalone anomaly. We've repeated the similar grades to the northwest and to the southeast. So this is real. And we also had some extremely good copper grades, silver grades. We had 50 meters at close on 60 grams a ton. Within that, we had 10 meters at greater than 100 grams a ton. And the lab wasn't calibrated to assay anything above that. So silver is very good. And the zinc, we've got over 100 meters of zinc, and running at around 4%. And yeah, so we have a second zinc zone has also come in on the northeastern side. So there's a lot of zinc in the system. So bottom line, we have an extremely broad sulfide zone, and with tin. And so we believe that we're in the upper levels, and that's easiest shown on the section. We're in the sort of the upper levels of this style of mineralization, where you have a lot of copper, lead, zinc in the upper, furthest away from the source. And with these, as the hydrothermal fluids that carry the minerals are driven out of the granites as they cool, the granite source, the tin drops out at the highest temperatures, so deeper down in the system, and the copper, lead, zinc continues and drops out higher up. And this is what we're seeing here. We're high up in the system, and you can see that this is where we had our 41 meters at 3.5% of copper, zinc, very broad zinc, and in two zones. The eastern zone at 33 meters at 9%. But the tin is starting to come into the system, and that is very important. That's crucial to the whole thing. Where you had 26-meter intercept here at almost 0.2%, and effectively we expect the tin grades to increase at depth, and the copper to continue and maybe drop off at deeper levels. Now, what I'm trying to explain there is basically the just to go back to the style of mineralization, where typically with in these environments, your granites cool, the tin granites, and your fluids are driven off, carrying the minerals, and effectively tin drops out at the highest temperatures, and then as the fluids migrate, so you get copper, lead, zinc coming into the system. What you're seeing here in the middle is the San Rafael mine in Peru, where San Rafael started off as a high-grade copper mine. And you can see that in the top slide, the top slide of the two diagrams. And basically, as they mine down to deeper levels, you can see the tin coming into the system. And this is shown very clearly in this section over here. And basically, as they went deeper, so they found more tin coming into the system, and today it's a tin mine, and they're producing up to 9% of the world's tin. So if you look at this diagram, looking at the tin alone, we see ourselves having drilled this portion over here to the west. I hope you can see my mouse. Basically our model is that we have to continue drilling at depth, and also towards the southeast, and towards the granite contact, and that is where we believe the tin is originating. So all our drilling, our current drilling is basically targeting this, heading towards this zone over here. The same sort of model, same style of mineralization is seen at the Crofty mine, and which also started off as a copper mine, and as it got down to deeper levels, you found tin coming in. So it's the style of mineralization has been repeated in many places. What we're seeing here is a section of our most recent drilling at Mont Agoma, and this is the southernmost section line that we've drilled, and we found two decent zones of tin within the copper zone, and we obviously we're waiting for results here. But just from visual tin and what you're seeing with the niton in the ground, you've got three discrete zones that are mineralized with tin, and these are roughly combined thickness of around 25 meters. We drilled a deeper hole that you can see, hole 17, and just visually there's a lot more tin in this hole. You know, we've been to site, we've seen it, and it's really this hole is really exciting. Unfortunately, we had to abandon before going through the actual the full tin zone itself, but we'll have enough information from this hole. And so in summary, going forward then for Mont Agoma, which we value as our prime target, you can see we've drilled this high-grade anomaly, but our main focus, this is where we drilled the two holes in the current campaign. We drilled one hole in the north, in 18, and I think we pretty much closed off the tin mineralization in this direction, and so the focus is heading south and at depth, and you can see we've this southern portion we've basically planned holes to intersect at 100 meter on the 100 meter by 100 meter grid, so we can quickly understand the model itself and that we're in the right direction. So the granites are in this orientation down to the northeast, and this is our priority area. So we're very confident that we are getting closer to the big system, and drilling will tell. Okay, then if we go to the Kalayi deposit, as I said previously, we drilled 4 holes. Kalayi is tin only. The mineralization is hosted within a quartz chloride shear, and the mineralization itself has been defined, or the soil anomaly is more than 2 kilometers, and it's because the anomalies are all on ridges, so there's no dispersion or anything like that. The early drilling had a best intercept there out of 4 holes. We had 12 meters at 1%, but inside that you had 2.5 meters at nearly 3.5%, and then you had a second zone where you had 0.5 meter at 11%. Effectively, so we are in the right area for the high grades, similar to get at Alphaman. And if you want to make a comparison to Alphaman next door, Mpama North and Mpama South. Basically, for Mpama North, we drilled 6 holes before we actually got into any mineralization whatsoever. And it was only after the 7th hole that we understood the orientation of the mineralization, which is sitting in a high-grade chute orientated at 40 degrees. So the first 6 holes drilled underneath that, and we knew exactly where to drill because there were artisanal workings at surface, which showed us where to focus. Mpama South, which is similar to what we're seeing here, is that in the top 200 meters, there was very little mineralization. You had the odd high grade spike, but generally it was less than sort of 0.2%, 0.5%. So it's only once it got down to much deep below the 200 meters from surface that you started getting into the high grade material. So we're seeing the Kalayi in a very similar situation to Mpama South. And this just shows the drilling to date. We've covered 600 meters. We have another fence to drill in the south, and this will put us in a very good position to have our first resource estimate out early next year. This shows the extent of the soil anomalies. These are the ridges in the dashed lines, And you can see the anomalies continue for 800 meters in that orientation and another 600 meters here. And we've only drilled the central portion. So plenty of upside. We just needed to see what we have and how to understand the model. This is just one section. You can see the typical of these quartz vein style of mineralization. You have distinct little discrete zones within the shear of tin. The top one is our intersection from the past, and here we had the 12 meters at 1%. We also had a zone of 0.4 meters at 12.85%. Probably got the same zone over here running at 3.3%, and then we had another zone at 0.6 meters at 4.5%, which just shows that how that it's not uniform distribution throughout the shear. So effectively, we need to drill. This bottom hole here looks pretty good as well. So results waiting on that one. Okay, so effectively that is our the summary of our projects to date and of the project itself and the work done to date and future work. So going forward, we'll have three drill rigs continuing at Mont Agoma, and hopefully we'll have a few more decent intersections out before the end of the year. And Kalayi, one rig going, but that's almost done. So we're on track to finish that one definitely before the end of the year. Okay, so effectively going forward, pouring end of December. Assays, it's been a bit of a slow process getting the assays just because of all the red tape and getting samples out the country, but we are on top of that now. So we should have all our results back by the end of January, and so with reporting resource analysis done by sort of February, March, hopefully. So I think that's it in a nutshell on that. So I guess, Klaus, you just want to take everyone through the who we are basically and what you've done in the past.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Just to explain, why we think, we are one of the prime leaders in the country there, in the DRC, and one of the only exploration company there operating there really, is our track record. When we started in early 2000 there with Kipoi Copper, which is still in production today. Then after that, in 2003, we found Moto Gold mines, and then in 2007, Randgold took it over, and then subsequently Barrick, which is their flagship project currently, which is a world-class project, drilled out 20 million ounces in 4 years. And then after that, we located another tin project initially in the Manono area, which then when the tin price collapsed, we just converted it into a lithium project in 2016. And that's now one of the biggest hard rock resources in the world too, at 1.6%. As you can see, we're usually moving on from one project to the next one. We're not mining engineers, we're geologists, explorers, and then usually get different management in or get taken over if possible in the pre-feasibility stage. After that, we looked around up in the north and we found a project there which is located 8 kilometers north of Alphamin. It has the same signatures. Then we started doing some soil sampling there and found out that it's actually probably double or triple the size than Alphamin. And it's all on the surface. And it's more or less a virgin discovery. And the grades were quite spectacular also on the surface. So we started after the soil sampling program, which took us 1.5 years to complete, was the first pass drilling program, listed the company on the TSX. But there was very little interest for tin on the TSX, so we decided to move it over to the AIM market. And there is a lot of investment money available for tin in that in the AIM market compared to Canada. And also you have a retail section in the market. In Canada, there's virtually no retail the trading of the stock maybe once a month. So we certainly are very happy to move it to the AIM market, especially with the interest generated there over the last 3-4 months. So we very keen to show the market also that this could be a world-class deposit. And we have been already contacted also by quite a lot of strategic investors, being miners and hopeful miners out of the Middle and the East and out of Asia. So there is good interest there, and we will entertain those ones in due course in the future. Maybe Mark, you want to go into a bit more detail there on the map?
Okay, so basically, as you said before, the tin itself is sourced from these granites shown in pink in this inside here. You have Alphamon's two deposits, Mphama North and Mphama South, sitting over here within one of these structures which parallel the granite contact, and they continue for 11 kilometers over the Alphamon ground. And where these structures bend around the granite in the north, where we have our licenses, you can see this would be the optimum position for dilation of these structures, more space for the fluids, and we're seeing that at Mont Agoma over here, where you've got 200 meters, a 200-meter wide sulfide zone at surface, and plenty of space at depth to host a lot more tin. I think one of the key things that I missed earlier was that basically at Alphamon the tin is hosted within a mafic schistose unit, and that unit is roughly 20 to 30 meters wide. What we're finding at Mont Agoma, the mafic unit is more than 80 meters, so it's just a lot more space to host the tin in that model. Yeah, so as you can see on this map, 8 kilometers between where we are and Alphamon, and in a really good position for significant discovery. Okay, so I think that should cover it, Klaas. I think.
Yep.
As you're probably aware, Alphamon are producing I think 7% of the world's tin at the moment, because Mphama South has just come up, and yeah, and basically it's the highest grade tin mine in the world at running at around 4%. So
yeah, I think from a general point of view, we should also mention that to get into production in the DRC is very easy and very quick. And to get from, you don't have the red tape really, which you have in Canada or in Australia. I mean, Alphamon was discovered 2013-14, and by 2018, the pre-feasibility and everything was already completed within 4 or 5 years. In most of the other countries, you explore for 4 or 5 years or 10 years, and then till you actually get into production, you'll be looking at 20 years. And that's the same, for Muto Gold Mines. That was also very quick to become a world-class mine from zero. So yeah, it's a very good location. You just have to like it. And as I said before, we're there since more than 24 years. We like it, and it's our home turf, more or less.
Okay, so maybe Paul, you want to go just touch on the tin?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, apologies for being late. I got stuck in Paddington with all the mess that there is there today. But anyway, yes. So tin. I mean, it's very interesting tin that and historically it's not been particularly taken a lot of notice by the market. But I think recently, certainly within the last 12, 24 months, it's becoming more obvious that tin is a very important commodity going forward, and it's a pretty relatively small market compared to other big metals. So you see on this slide, the left-hand graph is something that I just picked up off the London Metal Exchange. In terms of it's quite interesting. This year's London Metal Exchange did a poll amongst the participants as to which metals they thought basically had the most upside in 2025 and going forward. And there were 2 polls, one at the beginning of the talks and one at the end, and you can see from tin that the perception of sorry, you can see from the graph that the perception of tin increased greatly throughout that. And I think what people are realizing is that firstly, there is a supply squeeze. There's a lot of negative news coming out in terms of mine supply, uh, short term, medium term, and longer term. There is massive demand growth, and that's from the advent of AI, the fact that tin is the only material that can solder electronic pieces together, and therefore, with the great increase in AI in terms of chip manufacture, then tin demand goes with it, and also in terms of electric vehicles, in terms of any all the electrification of the energy system depends on tin, and therefore it's a two-way win. You know, there's a supply squeeze and there's a um, demand growth coming on over the next 10 years. So we're really in the right spot there, and it's showing in the price. I mean, the price is steady at about $30,000 a ton. When you consider, as Klaus said, you know, in DRC, it's relatively easy to get to production. And in fact, I think Alphamin's lifting costs are about $12,000 a ton. So there's a massive margin, which shows why they're making about 50 million a month in cash flow. So people who are producing tin, it's a really good business. Current share price. Well, we had obviously we came on at the end of July with the RTO at zero point 0.3. There was a very slow start, even though we started drilling a week or so later. There was probably a bit of an overhang of shares being sold into the market, which took a while to take out. Then we lifted off. We started to get traction, and I think what we're seeing in terms of the recent price movements is essentially waiting on results. And, you know, we're waiting on results. Everybody else is waiting on results. They will come through, and patience is a bit of a virtue when you need to go. The samples need to get to Goma, Lubumbashi, Johannesburg, even Vancouver. So it is a process. We are getting there. It's started. We've got results from 2 of the 14 holes so far. So we're only a small way there, but we will get news flow, which will hopefully support the price going forward and get back on track.
Okay, thanks, guys. So I've got can you see the Q&A box? We can I can read some out there, and then you guys can pick some if you can find it as well. We've also got some pre-submitted questions as well. And obviously, anyone on the call, if you'd like to raise your hand, I'm keeping an eye on the attendee list. If you raise your hand, I'll try and unmute you and allow you to talk as well. So first one for Klaus.
Yes.
Klaus, what's your overarching philosophy for this project? Is the strategy to replicate Alphamin's success and develop this into production, considering that Alphamin achieved this in just 6 years? How tempting is it to follow that path?
Well, historically, if you look at our track record, we usually not associated with the production profile at the end of the mining operations here, but we certainly drive it up to PFS or BFS, and then usually we'll change the management to give it a bit more mining outlook. There will be mining engineers camp. The company has to be restructured. I mean, at the moment, we have 3 geologists basically looking after the whole company and a couple of geologists on site. So it's a very lean and mean sort of machine. That would have to change. If we can't find somebody who buys us out, then we certainly will go into production just with a new team. Maybe 1 or 2 of us will stay on. But usually we go into production in some form down the track.
What's the broader strategy with regard to drilling? How many meters do you plan to drill, and at what point do feasibility studies become the focus? I think you've answered some of that, but I'll let you have another go.
Well, the more we have to drill, the bigger the project is. So we certainly love drilling. So as long as we find something new, we will continue drilling. Once the resource is big enough from an economic point of view, we probably will start with a PFS on the sideline, but still continue drilling if there is more upside there, exploration potential there. And we know the area there to the north and to the east, there is a lot of potential there. We haven't picked anything up there, but we could, if we wanted to make it bigger. So yeah, we love to continue drilling as long as it takes, but at one point in time, certainly we would probably look at the PFS. I mean, that could be even at the end of next year or early 2026.
Okay, thank you, Klaus. I have a hand raised from Charles Archer. Charlie, I'm going to allow you to talk here.
Many thanks, Sasha. Klaus, at Mont Agoma, hole 16A and 17 have been described as potential game changers. How long do we reckon it's going to be until we get those results back? And what are you hoping to see in those holes?
I think, Mark, you can correct me.
Mark might be better. Yeah.
The pulps have arrived on site, I think. And so we should have a better idea. But we think within the next 3 weeks, I think we should have those results. Mark, is that correct?
Yeah, we should have, definitely within the next 3 weeks. And to answer your question about what are we seeing there, I think I touched on it briefly in the presentation. Basically, the tin is definitely increasing as we head to the southeast towards the granite contact. And these two, and 16 and 17, we're expecting these to be, two of our better holes drilled at Mont Agoma so far, on the tin aspect.
Okay. And then second question on the strategic investment, can we name any names at the moment, Klaus, about who we're talking to, or is this all confidential still?
Yeah, it's confidential. We signed NDAs, so there is groups out of Asia and groups out of Dubai, and some Nordic countries too. So there is quite a range. And then I will be in Singapore next week. There is also another group which is keen to talk to us. But as I said previously in some of the other presentations, when we're talking to them, but we're not pushing for anything very quickly. But if they make a decision that they want to be part of us, we certainly will entertain it.
And then just finally, last one from me, in terms of the cash position, are we still in a healthy position at the moment? Because obviously drilling with 4 rigs is not cheap.
Yeah, I mean, everything can be continued till the early February. But, what our goal is to keep drilling forever, basically. So we will have a look at, as I said before, at the strategic investor, so that we can keep all drill rigs on site without terminating any drill programs for the time being. So that's certainly a target. And as long as the results support that, we will continue to do that.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I could say that on the strategic investor side, I mean, the opportunity here, I think is afforded by the fact of what people are seeing with AlphaMin. They're seeing IRH come in, they're seeing a lot of interest, and they're seeing our proximity to it and similarity in terms of grade and in terms of the geology, that to get into us at an earlier stage is a much better commercial proposition. And so therefore, I think companies that may ordinarily only look at later stage projects because they maybe looking at offtake, are actually looking at us because they see the quality and the proximity to a really world-class tin project. And so I think that's helping the momentum.
Yeah, I think also, just continuing on that too, I mean, when we started drilling there, most of the drill holes intersected exactly what we expected at exactly the same depths and also roughly the same widths which we expected. So there is no bad surprises there. I mean, usually in exploration, you can drill for 5 or 10 years and you don't have anything whatsoever. So it's very predictable what we have and very rewarding. The only question will be at the end of the day, what's the size and what the grade of the resource will be.
And as Mark showed on that map of Kalayi, we've only tested the central portion of the anomaly, so there is a lot of upside on Kalayi as well as Mont Agoma.
Are there other prospects to explore, or is the current focus on following the trend to the southeast? How does the geochemistry look in that direction, and what are the implications for further exploration?
Well, on the geochemistry, the extensions look very good. As I mentioned before, 2 to 3 times of AlphaMin on the surface too, on the ridges, so there's nothing transported. But nevertheless, the licenses adjoining us have the same potential, and we will certainly look at it. We just don't want to distract anybody at the moment, that people think, now they're picking up other areas. Maybe these ones are not that good, So, and then it's another extra cost, it's another extra camp, another extra operation, which you would load onto your overheads. So we know the people there, we can get it. So there's no rush. We're looking at it. We might even have a look at it more closely and do a little bit of groundwork there during the next 3 to 6 months.
Thank you, Klaus. There's a hand raised from Adam. I've unmuted you.
Hi, guys. Thanks for your time and for that presentation. A question for Mark. With 3 rigs at Mont Agoma, when might we expect the next update on sort of visuals on what we're seeing there?
Adam, we could have an update in the next couple of weeks. The 1 rig is pretty much coming into the zone now, so we should have an update on one of the rigs drilled to even 200 meters south of our current drilling, and then with the other rigs, that'll be probably another 2 weeks away.
And when you say coming into the zone, you mean getting through the sulfide zone and getting into the tin zone?
Yeah, it's all about getting into the copper tin zone.
Yeah.
And that's our main target, with the copper tin sitting inside the sort of mafic unit.
Yeah, and is this one? I mean, you're going 200 meters further south, but is the actual drilling, is it going any deeper than sort of 200 meters out?
No. In fact, as we're moving further south, the tin is much broader and much closer to surface, as you saw in that section that I put up earlier.
Yep.
And this is the only other hole that we intersected, those sort of broad zones of low grade tin at this stage, or at that stage, was hole 8, which was the southernmost hole drilled in the initial campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And there we had 50 meters of low grade tin all the way through, and with one, I think there was around 6 meters at 0.5%, within that, with 1 or 2 meters at over 1%. So we were coming into the zone in hole 8, and now it seems to be getting stronger as we head to the southeast. So it's completely open to the southeast for another kilometer before you get to the granites. So yeah, there's plenty of upside there.
But there was no visible cassiterite in hole 8.
Oh yeah, small amounts.
Small amounts.
But yeah. No, it's cassiterite everywhere. We haven't seen any other tin mineralization, any other type of mineral.
Okay. But isn't there, because I mean, as we think that the grade of tin increases at depth, I mean, should we not be going deeper on these holes, or trying to get a bit deeper?
That's exactly what I've planned, as you saw in that program, in the southeast. So we have holes drilled 50 and 100 meters below surface, and then I've targeted 2 additional holes below that, which will give you intersections of around 80 to 100 meters below.
Right. So sorry. So you're just moving further down the ridge, and then you're just drilling the same depth.
We're building our model on that sort of 400 meter zone, to the south of the initial drilling.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Brilliant. Thanks for that, much appreciated.
Okay.
Mark, maybe another one for you. You've already released world-class intersections from Mount Agoma on the TSX. Do you feel that the UK market has fully understood and appreciated these results, considering the current valuation doesn't reflect their significance?
Yeah, that's I think the market's waiting to see more results. I don't think they've actually understood or acknowledged what we've discovered so far. And I think it's just a case of with more drilling, there's a very good chance that we'll be able to build the optimism and see that we're on the right track. We as a team are very confident that we're getting a handle on this. Like I said earlier, it doesn't happen overnight. and we've already, we've got some pretty decent intercepts at surface, whereas next door, like at Mpama South, there was very little at close to surface, but we can potentially put out a resource from surface down to more than 150 meters. So I think let's just give it time and get more results out there, and I think you might see a change in the perception. And
yeah, I think that's one of the problems. I mean, if you look over the last 20 years, and there was only 3 discoveries really worldwide which have similar intercepts, and one of them is Sandfire in Australia. That went from 4 cents to $4, where the results were not even were comparable, but our zinc rates are still 3-4% higher than theirs. Copper is similar. And then you had Bisie Bay and then Chalice and a few other ones where you had some intercepts which are similar. It just depends on which country. It takes a bit longer in the DRC to get people comfortable with it. But big companies are looking at it too. They actually saw the intercept and they became interested and thinking about going in the DRC.
Yeah, and I think the one that really was the big kicker in Canada was the copper intercept, the 41 meters at 3.5%. I mean, that got Rio interested for one. And we've had 2 meetings, or no, more than 2 meetings with Rio as well, as as a sign of interest.
Yeah, I mean, in other countries, in Australia, you would go from 4 cents to $4 on it.
Regarding strategic discussions, Klaus, how many parties are currently engaged? What does the process look like? Are you considering a single partner, or would multiple strategic options better maximize shareholder value? And then I think you've covered this as well, but are there situations where you might consider a JV with an interested party for a longer term strategy, or would preference be divestment?
JVs we wouldn't entertain at this point in time at all. It would be just a strategic investment where somebody comes in, takes a 10-15% stake in the company initially. And with that one, we could probably look at maybe some takeoff agreement down the track or so, depending on what kind of price level we actually pitch it. But in summary, no JVs will be entertained. Strategic investors, yes, but preferably only one, so we would commit to somebody who is serious and who wants to work with us together over the next 3-4 years.
Thanks, Klaus. And one for Mark. Mark, can you elaborate on the comparisons between Mont Agoma and San Rafael, as well as its similarities to Alphamint's Mpama asset? What do these analogies imply for Mont Agoma's potential scale and grade?
Okay, so I mean, I've obviously I touched on that earlier, and we're seeing very, very similar analogies between all 3 deposits. San Rafael started off at high up in the system where you had the high grade copper, and basically we are seeing exactly the same thing at Mont Agoma. What might not be apparent is that at Mpama North, next door at Alphamint, you're still getting 0.2% copper within the zone, and you're getting zinc as well. So you're not in exactly the same system, but just at a lower level. So Mont Agoma, in our view, is still very much at the upper levels, and that's why, as Adam pointed out as well, are we drilling deeper? And yes, we are at the end of this campaign, we'll be drilling roughly 300 meters below surface, but it's on, the deposit's sitting on a steep hill. So in reality, I mean, it's probably going to be around more closer to 200. It's not going to have that much. It's not going to be 300 meters from a flat surface. So yes, I think there are very, very strong correlations, and you're seeing it not only at these 2 deposits, or these 3 deposits, but it's a general style of mineralization for these type of deposits, and we just have to drill deeper. And at Kalayi, we're already in the tin zone, and we're getting much better results as you're going deeper as well, closer to the source. So I think that's that's where we're going to be sort of targeting as well at Kalayi. Very little copper there, but we have seen some copper, but the main that's effectively a tin deposit in the tin zone, and now we just have to drill out the tin.
Thanks, Mark. Paul's had to drop off because he's got another meeting in the city. But if you guys have a little bit more time, then we can bang through the rest of these questions, if that's okay. But stop me if you guys need to drop off as well.
That's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, I have a meeting in 7 minutes, so.
Okay, right, quick.
I'll be around.
Okay.
Okay, let's get through these. Okay. Does the presence of copper and with zinc, does the presence of copper and zinc with tin add polymetallic complexity? Does this create any challenges for processing, or are there ways to turn this into an advantage?
I've had discussions with a few metallurgists, and I'm not a metallurgist, so I'm relying on their opinion. But the general consensus is that it's pretty easy to float off the copper zinc, and to recover the tin from just from a gravity circuit. So we don't see any major issues coming out of that.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, next question. Why do you think the first assay results resulted in a more negative than positive market reaction?
I think, people always think, that the first results are going to be the monsters. And I mean, you can't guarantee that. But I mean, everybody should look at it. We drill a hole, we get the intercept, we get the mineralization there, which is already a success. And historically, the grades in tin deposits at the surface are a lot lower than they are at depths because of the temperature scale, of the temperature differences. That's also the reason why you have copper and zinc up in Mont Agoma. That's at a higher level in the mineralization system. And you don't have that much tin there initially, but it will come at one stage, because the deeper you go, the hotter the temperatures in the fluids, and the more the tin falls out, and the copper doesn't fall out anyway. It falls out only at higher levels. So it's just a question from a technical point of view. We have the success. We know what we're looking for, and I can say that the model has been now well understood, and we think we're on the right track with everything there.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add to that, Klaus, basically, we've had our first round of experience in this area with Alphamin. So our whole team, most of our team comes from Alphamin. We have the same exploration manager, Jamie Anderson, and basically we understand the geology very well, and we're seeing a lot of similarities where we're drilling now. So this is no surprise to us, as you said before.
Thank you, guys. Moving on. So this is a question on the terrain. So can I ask, out of interest, what the terrain is like between Rome's license area and the currently established Alphamin? It continues, is it mountainous or has large rivers, etc.? Trying to get a feel for the infrastructure logistics.
Well, I mean, Alphamin put the infrastructure in already. We're 8 kilometers away from it. So it will be very easy to connect to that one. Otherwise, everything is pretty much the same. The vegetation is the same. The topography is the same. So there's no difference there.
Yeah, and then Alphamin had to build a 21-kilometer road as well, because it was, they were probably in a worse off position than we are.
And I mean, just on the cost of that road, that wasn't that much either. What was it? $1 million US?
It was around $1 million, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at the size of the deposit, it's a world-class deposit, and you have to build a $1 million road to get to it. That's just nothing. I mean, if you look at Moto Gold Mines, there we had to build $1.8 billion plant and infrastructure. So for gold, it looks a completely different scenario than for a tin deposit.
What is the host rock? One for Mark, before you go.
It's mafic volcanic.
Okay.
It's effectively mafic schists, and it's exactly the same as what we see next door at Elfman, where these mafics have intruded into the surrounding sericite schists.
Thanks.
So into sediments, basically.
Are there any plans to add to the 14 drill holes based on the hopes for the polymetallic zone at Mont Agoma?
Yeah, I mean, like we said before, we will, if we can, we'll continue drilling because we'll just with this current program, we'll confirm our model and we'll be able to focus a lot better on the tin. Yeah, 14 holes is a start. But once you understand it and we can raise enough money to drill it out or bring in the investor to fund that, we will continue.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have 4 drill rigs on site, so I mean that shows that we are serious. So we're not just having one drill rig there and we don't find anything. Also, we're actually very confident that we have enough there to support 4 drill rigs drilling there for the next year or 2 or 3.
And that's the way we've always operated in the Congo, is basically sit or get off the pot, basically. And that's another case of this. With the rigs on site, we'll be using them to the best of our ability.
Okay. Will you be putting out a resource target prior to the JORC?
I don't think at this stage, because you'll be getting the results at the same time. So the two will probably come together.
It shouldn't be too hard to put out a resource anyway. It's pretty confined, the area, and we have all the data already, the input there, and we could even just do what do you call it, an in-house model and come up with some numbers here. So that's not really that difficult. But we want to just drill a few more holes to make sure that we actually get the bigger extent and the depths of the potential there.
Okay. 2 more for you, Klaus. Klaus, how do you see the next few weeks and months unfolding for Rome?
Well, as Mark already indicated, the next 2-3 weeks we'll get the results, and we still continue drilling into the new year. So there will be further results coming then early in the new year, and yeah, we're confident that because we can see the core, we can see what's in there, that we're getting what we presented and what we indicated to most of the investors over the last 3 to 4 months.
Thank you, Klaus. Okay, so, well, to wrap up, can you summarize the key news flow investors should look out for? I think you've just covered that, but...
Okay, the next 2-3 weeks, the latest results, assay results, which will include Mont Agoma, some of the drill holes, and then probably before Christmas another lot, and then after Christmas again. And then I'm pretty sure that people will get a picture about the size, potential size of that the deposit, and then also of the grade as it increases at depth. You can do some interpolations there and just work out roughly what you could get over the next 6 to 12 months. Thank you very much, everybody attending. So thank you. And yeah, if there's any further questions, we are around, so.
Thank you for everyone for attending as well. I think we had over 50 at one point, which is excellent. It shows really good interest. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Enjoy your day, everybody. Bye-bye.